Hello everyone, welcome back to Queer Wave. Today we exploring the intersectional queerness, Burmese culture, and the ongoing struggle in our country. I'm joined by the incredible Aung, a queer researcher who's been studying this movement. Aung, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Let's start with some basics. Can you break down some queer terms for us and how they fit into the current situation in Burma?
Um, this is a good starting point for me because I'm into languages, translations, and terminology. I even wrote a chapter on how queer terminology evolved in Burma in my master thesis. So let's start with the English one first. The most common terminology is of course LGBT, like most people know, but like to keep it short, L for lesbian, females who are attracted to other females, G for gay, male who are sexually attracted to male, and then B for bisexual, people who are attracted to both males and female, and lastly T for trans, transgender whose gender identity is different from the sex they were assigned at birth. And then in the recent decade, we added QIA plus in the line that Q for queer or questioning, I for intersex, and A for asexual. Another popular term is queer, and it has two meanings, I would say. In some political and academic contexts, it is used in a contradictory way, in a sense that as a term that trying to destabilize any category or identity based on sexual orientation. Or in popular culture, like recently, it is appropriated by popular culture as an umbrella term that refer to a range of sexual identity that are not straight. So that's the English one. And the Burmese one, I mean, I could talk about this topic all day long, but I will keep it short. Firstly, and mostly, we have supposedly derogatory term like a child, which can be translated as dry, implying the need of lubricant in cases, I guess, or gandu, which we adopted from India, I think, meaning receptive partner in case sex. They are both derogatory. And another term I found out when interviewing for my thesis was like that around 2013 or 14, Burmese cisgender gay guy, they coined, I mean, not, yeah, like a homo or a short form of homosexual, but has different meaning. It just doesn't mean homosexual. The cutoff point was masculinity or manliness. I think they wanted to distance themselves from a child which has a social stigma behind it. And they started to call themselves as homo in a way that homos are masculine or manly, meaning more acceptable, and then pushing a child uh, I mean, the equivalence of faggot to trans people or queer people that are feminine. So they didn't change social stigma around a child directly, but create a new kind of identity to move away from it. And then we have another term like a bone and a point, which had different meaning depending on who you ask. A bone means hider, and a point means openly. So for some people, it's about straight passing. Sometimes it's about coming out. Sometimes it is a cutoff between cisgender gay people and trans people. I think LGBT as a term is getting popular in Myanmar lately because it's a foreign language and it does not carry any social stigma or traumatic child memory like a child does. So yeah, I think this answer your question, I think. So shoot me another one.
That's really important to hear. For the clarification of your explanation, queer stand, how do traditional Burmese culture and queer identities mix or clash?
This is a tricky question for me because I don't believe any culture is intrinsically queerphobic or queer friendly. When we say culture, we mean it as a set of belief, ideal, norms, and attitude, right? So these things can be contested, change, or evolve. I mean, this is what happened during the whole process of human civilization, I guess. I'm not a historian, so I don't have any access to all historical archive, like how queerness was treated in old Asian time. I once read in Dr. Tantrum book that there was a punishment for same-sex activity ordered by Badomin during Komang Dynasty. But I'm not sure if he's picked up from the British or I don't know. So that needs to be researched properly, and that's not my expertise. So I'm gonna pick up a more recent example. Before Thai Boy Love series, in the 90s and 2000s, at least in my hometown, we had this amateur street performer who could be called drag queen, like the popular performer group Mojo Ngangelimya. But the question is that a celebration of queerness or just tolerance or placing queer people as entertainment? Nothing more than that. That's what I intend to research at some point. And my point is that we have queer spaces. I mean, not ideal spaces, but yeah, but they even under authoritarian regime. And I also don't believe in this clear-cut distinctions of queer-friendly and queer-phobic culture or countries. Because when we have seen attack on gender and trans people in Europe and North American context, we never frame it as a cultural issue, right? So to answer your question, in short, cultures are always changing, whether it is queer-friendly or friendly or queer-phobic, depending on many factors. We have seen how the topic of queerness or LGBT is becoming less of a taboo as the impact of Spring Revolution in Burma. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So the military coup in 2021 shook the entire nation. How has it masked things for the queer community in Burma?
Obviously, the military coup messed up everyone in Burma,
Yeah.
but of course, it is worse for women and queer people. We have seen reports and news that women and queer people, sometimes heterosexual men, have been verbally and sexually abused at the interrogation center. That's something done by the military junta, not surprisingly. Now we have an armed struggle against a military coup. I know it's a painful and very last resort for everyone. The problem is that militarism is always coupled with hypermasculinity. In other words, it will undermine or marginalize queerness. We know that there are other queer people in people defense forces. That's another matter. My point is that I think like a month ago, I saw a Facebook post by a member of People Defense Forces. He said that it would be funny to see young able men welcoming People Defense Forces when they successfully occupy the town. So in a sense, he looked down on men who chose not to take arms. The implication is that, according to him, men outside of People Defense Forces are less masculine. That's what I meant by militarized hypermasculinity. I mean, this is such a big problem we will have to deal with in the coming years as well. But let's be honest, things have been bad for queer people since before the military coup. In 2013 or 14, a group of transgender people were arrested by the police near the Palace Mall in Mandalay. They testified that the police pulled off their clothes, kicked them, and beat them with batons, squeezed their breasts, forced them to do fraud jams, and lastly asked them to shout, "We are not women, we are men." There are other cases, but I think this case is enough to see how bad it is for queer people. I mean, it happened 10 years ago, not so long ago. That's why I believe queer resistance, queer struggle is a long way to go.
Yeah. So I just want to focus on our recent activities, but despite these challenges, the state group working to make things better for a queer force in Burma. So What crew are working to make things better for queer folks in Burma right now, and how has they changed since the crew?
Um, there are civil society organizations and NGOs working on queer issue, but here I would like to highlight the work of queer people themselves. And I will pick two examples. The first one is we have seen the boom on internet around 2012-13 when SIM cards were available with cheaper price. And one of my interview subject, which I interviewed for my thesis, he grabbed this opportunity. There's a Chinese gay dating app called Blue, and it has the functions of broadcasting live, which is usually used for explicitly sexual or erotic purposes. But he uses for another purpose, for queer activism, I would say. Through these live sessions, he became what he called counselor. He listened to people's story in the comment section or sometimes through private messages, and he consulted them case by case. And he repeated that during the live session that he's attentive, so we were asking questions on health, mental health, and well-being. Obviously, he's not a trained therapist, but we can see that he tried to give psychological support and create a safe space for queer people to talk about their struggle. This I would call queer activism. And another case study, he also an interview subject of mine. He organized panel discussion, inviting famous openly gay people at Dagon University. And he faced some backlashes. For example, the university authority cutting off the electricity during the event or singling out the volunteer of the event during lectures. This I will also call a queer activism. And the second part of the questions, how have they changed since the coup? Obviously, you can't organize such panel discussion at the university campus anymore after the coup. But the coup has negative impact not only on in-person activity, but also on online spaces. The counselor in the first example, he's a CDM government tactics, and he does not dare to broadcast live session anymore because of the security reason. For example, he saw some live session on Blue done by someone who he believed a police or the government official sided with the military junta, so he does not feel safe there anymore. This is something impacted by the coup, I would say.
Activism in Burma is already challenging, but what are the specific challenges for queer activism compared to other sectors?
This question reminds me of a quote by Maya Midashi and Jasvipur. They are queer theorists. One of them is from Middle East and the other from South Asia. So they frame this quote in the context of Middle East, but I think it is relatable in our context as well. So I'm going to say it out loud. And so they said, in contexts where permanent and semi-permanent war exist, what kind of queer organizing, archive, theory, practices, visibility, institution, knowledge production projects emerge? The precarity of queer life is not exceptional in these socio-political spaces. It is additional precisely because war, genocide, occupation, oppression, dictatorship, terrorism, and killings are part of the everyday fabric of life for many people who live in the region. What emanate the impulse to search for something to call or to theorize as queer? What must the queer body do or be to be recognized as such, and by whom? Do we want this recognition? And if so, how and for what purposes? How can we generate theory out of these locations? And if doing so, are these body or theory routed through area study rather than recognized queer theory? So I think this call answer your question whether or not like the precarity of Burmese queer life is not exceptional when the military junta is bombing the cities, school, hospital, and churches, right? The other rhetorical question asked by Mitashi and Poor have to be answered by, I think, queer people inside the country. But from the outsider point of view, there are specific challenges or attack on queer activists or queer people. For example, when people want to criticize the national unity government, they use Minister Wu Aung as and his queerness as a scapegoat. It applies the same to that kind as well. I know she's standing on the wrong side of the history, but we're not supposed to attack her sexuality or her partners, right? Yeah, that would be my answer.
So, apart from our local, looking over how important is help from other countries for queer movement in Burma. So, and what is the best way to do this?
The first and obvious obstacle Burmese queer people are facing at the moment is the military dictatorship. So if other people in other country want to support queer people, they could help in any possible way to take down the military. That's very simple. But like I said before, queer liberation is not something that will be achieved automatically after taking down the military junta. Queerphobia will still be a big issue after the revolution. For this issue, I think transnational queer and feminist alliance could be an answer. Like the right-wing group, they are very well connected internationally. For example, attack on drag queen and trans people was quickly and easily spread to Europe and elsewhere. But when it comes to the left or queer feminist movement, it takes time to form a cross-regional movement because we have been attacked on different sides. So from my point of view, an international queer and feminist alliance is the answer.
Can you share a personal story or observation that's really changed your view on queer liberation in Burma?
There are more than several stories that move me when it comes to queer liberation. My own personal experience, or my friends, or something I read in a newspaper. But I will pick an example that is relevant to the revolution. My interview subject, he is part of the People Defense Forces in upper part of Burma, and this is his testimony. He told me that his friend was picked up by one member of People Defense Force on a full moon day. His friend was blackmailed by the Beaver Defense member with a knife to give him pocket money. My interview subject and his friend tried to downtone this issue like nothing harmful happened, he was just drunk. But this story, it made me sad because we all know that military junta is homophobic. But with the Beaver Defense Forces, we had different expectations. They took arms to resist against the unfair dictatorship, right? So, I mean, there are much more violence and harmful cases, for example, what happened in Walla. But I'm not mentioning this to give the revolution a bad name. But this story reminds me, or all of us, that queer liberation is such a long way to go. And this is just the beginning.
As we look toward the future, what do you think will happen with queer liberation in Burma?
I can predict the future, but I can identify some good sign regarding queer liberation in Burma. And I will give you two examples, two slogans by LGBT Alliance Myanmar. The first slogan is in Burmese, "They mama chao lo pedia shouted tolan chao," which can be translated as "Faggot who march on the street, dare to die. They are not scared of death, and they revolutionize." I mentioned before that a child carries social stigma behind it, but in this slogan, you can see that they are trying to reclaim it and reverse or get rid of the social stigma. Plus, they are saying that revolution is not necessarily a heterosexual thing, creating a space of their own within the revolution. I think this is a good strategy utilized by queer people in this social movement. Another slogan, it was also made by LGBT Alliance Myanmar. In Burmese, LGBT ro phone me online ko kaisa tome, which can be translated as with LGBT phone me online would be finished off. In long story short, porn is thought to be a spiritual status of man. In other words, it can be called a localized form of patriarchy. Interesting thing is that porn is an issue usually raised by women's rights group or feminists, not necessarily or directly related to LGBT people who are comprised of both males and female. My argument is that in this slogan, we can trace a solidarity of LGBT people towards women to tackle the patriarchal belief. Before this, when civil society organization drafted this Bobang law, protection and prevention of violence against women, they failed to include lesbians and transgender women in their framework. But this queer activism in Spring Revolution is created and sympathetic enough to include other subordinate groups, such as women in this case. So I would say these are good new trend in queer revolution.
That's a message of hope. Finally, what advice do you have for people who want to support the queer community in Burma?
There are many ways to support the queer community in Burma, be it financial support, psychological support, or showing solidarity. Like I said before, I'm in exile now, so I can represent the queer community inside the country. But the first thing people who want to support the queer community in Burma need to do is to listen to their voices. Then you will know what they need. Importantly, something to keep in mind is that you must be aware of your positionality, whether it is your race, class, gender, age, or ability, etc. Show solidarity, but not own or occupy the queer resistance. That's what allies should do. That will be my answer.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight out. This has been such an enlightening conversation. And to everyone listening, don't forget to stay tuned for more episodes of Queer Way. Everyone, please take care. Bye-bye.